Welcome to the Leading Together podcast. I'm Sean Lee, joined as always by my co-host, Joe Olwig. We're going to jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack a very well-known James Clear quote, maybe well-known to people like us. And it's this idea that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. Right? To help us explore what this quote means for leadership teams, we're going to play a clip and then discuss it from Brené Brown and Adam Grant in a recent episode of her Dare to Lead podcast. For a bit of context here, they're talking about a concept that Brené writes about in her new book, Strong Ground, called pocket presence, right? It's sort of the ability to stay calm under pressure, be situationally aware, and really to trust your team. Okay, so Joe, why don't we start this clip and we'll pause it a few times and have some discussion about it.
Let's do it.
One of the things we talk about when we do Dare to Lead transformations is you've got to build systems that are braver than people, because it's human nature to tap out of hard things sometimes. We're weary. I'm weary. Everybody gets weary. But when she was onboarded into our organization, she was taught that if you're not given those, you must always ask for the 5 C's. She was taught if someone says something to you that's complex, you have to ask for a playback. You have to say, can I play back what I think I'm hearing? So we're going straight into James Clear. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. So to me, the kettlebell exercises that were in play there that really saved my ass. And by the way, that meeting went exactly how I wanted it to go and exactly how it would not have gone had I had my way. But the kettlebell exercises there are 2. 1, the 5 C's.
Okay, so the first thing that I'm noticing in this clip here is this thing she says towards the very beginning, that you have to build systems that are braver than people. I imagine that probably is resonating for both of us as we hear this, Joe, because we wrote a book about this concept. In fact, this is more or less the case we're trying to make in chapter 1 of At the Heart of Work. Maybe not saying exactly this way, but just really appreciate the point that Brené is making here, right? And maybe I'd offer it a little bit differently to build upon what she's saying here, is that when we collaboratively design and bring intention to the systems that we collaborate within as a team, that it makes it a lot easier to show up with bravery and courage, as this person is in the example that she's describing here in this little story.
Yeah, I love that. What really resonated with me was how she was emphasizing the idea of we're weary. What she's speaking to is that the finite nature of human courage, tenacity, grit, discipline, right? At the end of the day, we need systems because we know how influential they are on the workplace conditions.
Yeah.
But we also need them because we're not superhumans, right? That have an endless level of courage. And if you think about even the leaders who are, level 5 at, discipline, courage, bravery, even those leaders will tap out, right? There's only so much that we have to give. And so in those moments, we rely on our systems, right, to support us in these moments. Yeah, I love this.
I love that you noticed the weary part, Joe. I mean, I think you and I have been in a season of leading a lot of workshops and kind of hyper, just a lot of client engagements too. And we kind of always hear this, but I think what I'm hearing at an even increased pace right now is that we're just so busy. We're firefighting. Oftentimes when we ask teams, like, what's keeping you from doing the work required to strengthen the systems to build, or even just to like have a higher performing leadership team, more simply put, it's like we just don't have time. Like we're so busy firefighting. I mean, I heard it again from like 4 leaders yesterday in a workshop that I led. And it just makes me, in a different way, they're saying we're weary, right? And so when you're weary, when you're busy, when you're overloaded, I mean, it just feels so hard to show up and be courageous and challenge a leader, especially in the context that the story Brené is sharing here is also structural dynamic. This leader is challenging up, I'm
Yeah,
assuming. I don't know
yeah.
their structure of their organization, but I'm assuming Brené is.
Renee's up there.
Yeah, if nothing else, even if she's not the CEO of their organization, she sure is, I'm assume, considered as someone with massive influence, right? So
It's an
so
influence.
that person still felt was able to muster that because of the investment they made.
Well, that's what I also loved about this one because it's a little bit off the specific quote that you called out here.
Yeah.
But when it comes to systems, teach and then normalize.
Mm,
Teach and then make it a norm. She was teaching us in that moment how they made that part of their system. We
mhm,
trained on it and then
mhm,
it became a norm. We trained on
mhm,
this and it
mhm,
became a norm. If you're listening and you're wondering how to get started with bringing more intentionality to your organizational systems, teach those who are a part of that
mhm,
system whatever it
mhm,
is you want them to do, right?
mhm, mhm.
Define it, bring the clarity, right? Is what sometimes it's just clarity, sometimes it's capacity building and clarity, and then
Yeah,
make it the norm, right?
yeah,
And that's because they just have this system for doing that.
yeah,
This leader felt completely comfortable. Well, we don't know how comfortable they felt, but they were able to leverage that system in that moment and
yeah.
deliver on that norm. Super
Mm.
powerful.
Y Joe, this is making me think, I'm hearing the part of the clip in my head as you talked about making it a norm where she was like, "Because we onboarded her to this," right? Because we made it clear this is a part of how we wanna work, that it then kinda created this big permission structure for her to do that. But there was also this moment for Brené, right? Where I think, in whether you think of it as like being disciplined or her also being courageous, in a weird way, I kind of see it as courageous, maybe not in the more traditional sense, but Brene also had to receive it,
Mhm.
right? And be like, yes, this is this is the very thing happening that we have said we want to happen. And in that moment, had she not accepted it, had she kind of dismissed or moved on, and by the way, we're all the best leaders all have these moments where we're all human, we have bad days, etc. But that would be working against the very thing that they're trying to build. And I think I'm emphasizing this because we're talking about norms and culture, and it's like you create it, you train on it, but then you've got these real moments, right, where the people are seeing like what's actually a norm, like what's
Yeah.
actually happening. I
Yeah.
can challenge anybody in the organization and ask for the 5 C's, and they're going to be in it with me. They're not going to bail. Like they're going to be like, "This is who we are. We're going to do it. We're going to work through this together."
Yeah. Sean, what you're reminding me of is that title of our book, At the Heart of Work Are People and Systems. The system
Hmm.
set up the moment, right? But there was a real moment of on the people side, Brené's response,
Hmm.
right, to this that actually made it move forward, right? And
Yeah.
she could have in that moment done anything to shut it down, right? To not
Yep.
model curiosity, open posture, seek to understand, right? And could have shut it down and it would have started to push back on the system, right?
Yeah.
But she brought that leadership, she brought that people piece, and it was the combination of these two that made for this beautiful moment of some tension and some resistance and some
Hmm.
you know we're a little bit misaligned here drive towards this moment of cohesion, right, and resolution, which
Hmm.
was really powerful.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, the piece that I when I listened to it, and I don't know if I'll get this quote, completely right, but I loved it so much that that meeting went exactly how I wanted it to go and not how it would have gone if I had it my way.
Mm. Right.
What?
Yeah.
Right? Thank you, Brene, for saying that. That
Yeah.
this is the what that made me think of, were all of the leaders who we've worked with who are resistant to systems and structures, right?
Mm.
And who sort of I don't know if we really need those, right?
Yeah.
Each one of those leaders sort of came up for me when she shared that because she's just showing a whole lot of humility, right? And recognition that as leaders, like we have a limit to what we're going to be able to just do on our own.
Yeah.
And really recognize that because she had this system, this in this case, a norm,
Yeah.
she was able to actually get the better outcome, which was not what she was going into the conversation thinking.
That's right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it makes me kinda go back to what you share, Joe, and what we share with our clients all the time. It's like, it's just unrealistic to think that we're going to show up like superheroes in, in all of these moments, and so we have to build systems that, greatly increase the odds of high performance so that we don't have to, like, muster superhuman strength in all of these moments. That is, I think, Bernays was able to lean on that system, right, in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And able to, I think, let go of some of her own instincts, maybe knowing that the system would carry them through. Whether she's
Mhm.
processing all this or not doesn't really even matter, right? It's probably just muscle memory from the fact that that's the 50th time that's happened to her in the last quarter, right? And so now she just knows, oh, okay, my instincts are here, but
Yeah.
I know from proof that this is going to work for our team, and so I'm going to die to my instincts a little bit, right?
Yeah.
At
Trust the
least
process.
trust the process,
Trust
right?
the
I'm
system.
gonna let this bear out because I trust it will get there, even if it continues to be hard. And which I think is important, by the way. I think sometimes there's a little bit of a misconception with systems work and team norms that once we get them down, everything just magically gets better right away. I think what I love about Brene letting us into her own thought process a bit here is that you see, even as someone who goes out and trains teams on this year round, writes books about it, has done the intentional work in her own organization, that she's still fighting these like instincts that want to move a different way. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think I find that really helpful because it's sort of like, if you're feeling that way, probably everybody's feeling that way. Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's got these, I want it to go this way, but I'm
Yeah.
glad it didn't. I'm glad it didn't.
Glad it didn't. Yeah. I mean, gosh, in a world where leadership can feel isolating, can feel just so like so much, you deserve to rely on some good systems,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be perfect. We're all going to have these moments where we're seeing something one way. And if we just go after it that way without systems, we keep saying systems, but in this case, this cultural norm of how, they resolve tension and address complexity. If we don't
Yeah.
have those things, um, yeah, we're not gonna get where we want to go. And so we rely on and we deserve to have systems supporting us
Yeah.
because of our flaws and imperfection.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's helpful just to give a little more context in the situation too, but it's one that I think felt very familiar to me, which is, a leader is asking someone for something, and with which what they think will result in the right piece of information, but the person on the other side is actually more of the subject matter expert, and so
Mhm.
they actually have access to a lot more variables, and so they're able to come back and say, like, "Well, let me understand what you're really looking for here so that I can get you the most helpful set of information," right? And
Yeah.
the reason I give this context is because I've been in a lot of rooms where that doesn't happen, and there is a ton of time wasted on finding the wrong information, right?
Mhm.
And then you bring it, and you can't even now have a dialogue or review or analyze or make decisions because you're looking at the wrong information, right? And
Mhm.
so this is just one use case for this, but in a world where, or a team dynamic, I should say, where people feel empowered, like, to speak up and say, like, I want to get you exactly what you need, right? But in order to do that, I want to have all the context here, right? It takes that team norm around. Yeah, I think, simply put, I don't know what it's like exactly to be on their team, but I just heard it saying, like, if you need more context, ask for it. Like, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
get the context you need to do the best job you can.
Yeah.
And in a world where that's not there, man, the results are just going to be incredibly mitigated.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so should we maybe go into let's keep playing the clip here, see if there's anything
Yeah.
else to mine out.
Let's pull it back up.
These. Number two, the playback. Can I play back what I think you're saying?
Well, Brené, this is my big aha from this conversation. Is I came into it thinking about pocket presence as an individual skill, but what you just spelled out is that it's actually a collective capability. It's it's enhanced by the systems that you build into your team and the norms that then a group of people follow together that allows each individual to have that presence.
Oh my God, you
Okay, why
just
don't we
put
pause
icing,
there? Yeah.
sprinkles, and an edible flower on my cupcake of pocket presents.
This,
Cupcake of pocket presents. Love that. I want one of
that's
those
fun. I
cupcakes.
mean, I think having a similar reaction to that as Brené did, which is I think that this what Adam Grant here, I think what he says is it's actually a collective capability. And I think he's talking about pocket presence there, saying it's actually a collective capability. It's enhanced by the systems that you build into your team,
Mhm.
right? So I think what he's saying is this is interesting. It's like we might traditionally think of pocket presence as more of an individual skill, right? Like
Mhm.
it's if you don't know sports, like this is a phrase that or a term that is attributed to quarterbacks, right? Who can stand with poise, who can be calm under pressure, right? And can be sort of connected to what's going on around them, have like situational awareness and make the right call. Um, but I think what Adam is getting at here is that that is really enhanced when the team is all moving together, right? It's not just
Yeah.
we might have thought about this as an individual thing, but the more that we have adopted team norms, agreements, ways of working, right? Like it greatly increases the odds that we're going to show up more effective in our role, right? So I think
Yeah.
this stood out to me because I think up to this point I've probably just thought about pocket presence as like an individual skill to be honed. But what I'm now thinking about is that it's greatly impacted by those around us.
Yeah. Well, I think this way in which he stretches our thinking is replicable across other capabilities that we expect of leaders as well. And
Right.
that's what he reminds me of here is that, when we can think about those capabilities that we want to see in leaders and we can work to create that across a team and think about it really as a collective capability, right? Be it pocket presence, team psychological safety, right? These different capabilities that we want to see in leaders. He's reminded us that we can actually build this collectively as a team. And when we do that, we see an even greater impact, right? So I'm almost
Mhm.
imagining this, when he says this visual of not only is the quarterback at the presence, right, but the running back and the offensive linemen are also sort of operating in this almost state of flow together because they're so aware of each other,
Mhm.
right? And they
Yeah.
have this real sense of team that's really powerful. But
Yeah.
one thing that I think is just important that he points out to us as well is that our systems make it more possible for us to have really strong pocket presence. So I know we didn't play this part
Mhm.
of the clip, but in her book, she uses Brady as the exemplar for strong pocket presence.
Yeah.
Uh, and he was someone who sort of inherently had just a really high degree of this and nurtured and developed it over time. But I think if we were to get him on the pod, he might suggest that because he felt so clear and confident and comfortable in the system that he was working within,
Yeah.
right? That allowed
Mhm.
him to be, to have even a greater degree of it. And so if we're to make the
Yeah.
connection to leadership, right? When we're actually in these moments of where we need to have a lot of pocket presence, be it the weekly meeting, right? Or bigger moments, maybe of tension. If we have systems and norms that are supporting us, we're going to be able to focus on that element of our leadership as opposed to being distracted, right,
Mhm.
or restricted by the lack of norms and structures.
Yeah. That's great, Joe. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm hearing sort of like this, or I'm getting out of this, so like this two-dimensional aspect of pocket presence. One is uh, the way in which our individual presence is improved and strengthened by the, and impact and influenced by those that we're working with and degree to which we feel alignment, but is also just this picture of like the collective pocket presence, right? Which it's kind of an interesting view, but if you were just to say, if you were to continue with the football analogy and you were to like look at the entire team, I guess we would have to have it a different name for it, because
Yeah.
it's probably more than just the pocket. But when the team is really connected and operating within strong systems that they have um, had voice in creating, right? Like
Mhm.
maybe not exactly the same level, but they've had opportunity to contribute to them and shape them, and now they're performing within them,
Mhm.
right? That team is moving much more in unison together, right? Which is I love the Brady analogy because I think, yeah, yes, he had natural talents and skills and instincts that were, superhuman almost, right? From his ability to see the field move quickly, react, and just the way he processes information. But I hate to say this because I love the Chicago Bears, but maybe it wouldn't have bared out the same way if he was on the Bears, right?
Listen,
And then
2001
having to do
Super
coach
Bowl.
every 18 months and
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
it took strong systems to be developed, good coaching, all these things all came together for them to be, arguably the best team of all time,
Yeah.
and for him to be arguably the best quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
okay. All right. Well, thanks, Brené and Adam, for inspiring us to have hopefully a good conversation about this whole idea of how do we really lead together and how do we embrace systems that can really increase the odds that we show up with more courage and bravery. So, uh, as always, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Leading Together. If you found it valuable, be sure to like, subscribe, or leave a review. It helps more leadership teams discover these conversations. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment with your thoughts, and also share it with a friend or two or peer. We'd love it if you did that. And of course, you can always find more information at sixlevers.co. Until next time, remember to take that one step towards becoming a more cohesive leadership team.